This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC on location, Ursa, San Diego 2023. I'm here with my new friend Paul. We are going to talk about bodQR, and we are going to talk about the future of member relationships and focusing on things that matter. So, Paul, good to see you again, and welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Thanks so much. You know, we first met at another event, Connected Health.
Yeah, we're at the Connected Fitness event. I talked about how you can't have artificial intelligence until you have intelligence, and then you and I became fast friends in agreement on several quotes and takeaways from like building relationships and simple building blocks and foundational ways to do that. So, you know, you're a Wharton grad. You've got a good business strategic mind and vision on where the future is. It seems like you've done that successfully in your career of kind of being on the front end of new concepts or new industries that have been evolving, including med spa. So talk about why you started bodQR and where it's going and why you saw there was a frustration that you could solve.
Sure. So last 15 years, I'd say 18 years even, I've been in health, fitness related businesses. Most recently, I had a national, or still have a national nutrition coaching company. And we were running, as we were scaling, we were fortunate to be doing very well. We served tens of thousands of consumers. And we were facing a problem that we've now given a name to, but it was really about getting to know our members really deeply and understanding their condition and needs and goals and being able to translate that into a better service and better sales and better retention. And we realized that we needed to have an automation to do that. We couldn't rely on staff for the consistency and complexity of the work that we were doing. So bodQR is the kind of the solution that we developed to solve that problem or address that problem.
Yeah. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what kind of market validation did you do up front versus in your gut you kind of knew and you saw the market? You know, a lot of venture capital firms, or they would say, you know, it's a total addressable market. I'm like, everyone.
Right,
you know,
right.
like, so how'd you kind of work through your own lens to say, hey, I'm going to, you know, dedicate my life to this versus, you know, let somebody else figure it out? Mm-hmm. Or why did you think nobody else could figure it out? Maybe let's start with that.
Sure. Well, we had the benefit of the problem was right in front of us, and we wanted to, we were highly motivated to solve the problem for ourselves and implement the solution with our own team, with our sales force, with our nutrition coaches. And it wasn't until we actually got to building it that we really started to think about it as an opportunity to sell beyond our own business. And we did a number of iterations. We built the software, I should say, over several years. This took 3-4 years of effort. So this was not a small project. And we tested across that time different positionings, different combinations of features, and we rolled it out in different waves to different target markets to really understand where there was opportunity. It was a lengthy process, but worthwhile. And I think we do understand now where there's opportunity in fitness, and it happens to be mostly with those fitness providers that don't have the capacity to get to know their members deeply right now, and we can talk about that, of course. Yeah.
So, you know, talk about how you sequentially want to build the business and how it was built.
I mean, I'm embarrassed to say we probably built it backwards. We built it
That's fine. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, but we did build the most sophisticated, elaborate analyses at first, and we learned as we were presenting our tool that we had to go back to basics. And some of the more basic questions that we presumed had already been answered about, you know, a member's basic condition, for example, had not been answered in most fitness businesses. So we ended up doing the simple things last, which, again, in hindsight, is easy to see we made a mistake. But yeah.
But you did kind of use your own company as like your testing ground, right?
Exactly.
And then when you think about how you were able to roll it out internally, or, you know, like you'd say any business is basically a group of people that come together to solve a frustration on behalf of others and hopefully solve it in a profitable fashion. So when did you kind of stop this is how it works for me internally, and here's how I'm going to then educate other people and roll it out as a, you know, as a service?
Yeah, as soon as we saw the impact we were seeing on the front end with new members, we're seeing a doubling of close rates, a doubling of show rates when we were using assessments up front with prospects. And then we were seeing an extension of member relationships by almost 50%. So we knew that kind of impact was something that other businesses would probably be interested in. Yeah, and so we had to try it first.
Got it. So, and it explained obviously we're on audio here, so we're not showing any kind of videos of how the software works, but we got a SaaS platform, could be deployed inside as a private label for any health club or fitness studio or anyone that's doing any kind of corporate wellness or has a community.
Exactly.
Right. So talk about what the login looks like, what the actual results are, how long it takes to make the assessment.
Sure. So the access for a member or a prospect is very simple. They would scan a QR code with their smartphone if they're in a facility, or they could click a link if they're following it from an email or a website. And they would take about a minute to provide a little bit of information in our web app, and maybe another minute to register the very first time they use it. And they'd instantly be delivered a comprehensive body analysis along the lines of what you might get if you used a piece of hardware. Mm-hmm. Now, the app itself is, as you mentioned, custom branded for the studio or gym or YMCA or what have you. And it is cloud-based. And it's a web app, not a phone download. So when the member scans a QR code, it opens up a web browser for them to access the tool. They can always log back in. They can take more assessments to update their progress and see their more detailed reports anytime. And there's a progression of analyses, not just a body analysis. There's what we call a gap or a goal and activity profile, which is similar to an intake. We're looking at whether there are objectives for fitness and nutrition, what are their impediments, what is their history, what is their physical health conditions, those kinds of things. And then there's also much more rigorous fitness and weight diagnostics. In terms of time, to your question about time, those additional assessments take 2 to 5 minutes each, depending on which ones you would take. Yeah.
And then with all this, talk or compliance related to HIPAA and like PCI compliance and data privacy, how are you guys handling that?
So we use AWS and have all the security measures and protocols that you would need for that kind of data. That said, most people don't know that HIPAA really applies to Medicare reimbursed businesses and maybe Medicaid, but in the case of most fitness businesses, HIPAA turns out not to be a concern, although it's a good idea to comply anyway.
Gotcha. So what are some of the success stories that you've had? So what are some of the things that you've had to rethink as an entrepreneur and said, hey, I thought the market was going to respond this way, but they're not, or clubs that maybe don't want to educate their staff as much. Maybe they just want to kind of use it as an automated service and not necessarily, like, you got the member blindness is a comment that you made before. They might want to include it as marketing and not necessarily as like content or like health enhancement. You might want to use it like a marketing shtick, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So there are different use cases, you're right. And it depends on the format of the business and their particular focus. So we did build the tool knowing that it could be used for lead generation, and we used it that way ourselves. And it's very, very productive as a lead gen tool. We've generated some of our lowest cost per lead by promoting the assessments in social media and in advertising. But I think the biggest surprise to us, or the biggest change in the market as we were building the tool, was that sales forces in fitness kind of disappeared. We thought that this would be a perfect tool for salespeople initially, and now most sales happens either online, the self-directed way, or it happens after like a trial class or some other kind of experience that leads to someone going to the front desk and just signing up. Right. So that kind of curated or managed sales process, not everywhere, but largely has disappeared. And so we had to adapt our positioning and our features to make sure that we were enabling people to sell without that consultation, that live consultation.
As you kind of see, look, the ideal world in the future doesn't include diabetes, doesn't include obesity, and doesn't include loneliness. However, the clubs, for better or for worse, have not been able to hire as many people because there's not many people that want to work in a health club when they can go do an Uber and like turn on and off. They could work from home. There's a lot of different choices for people, and there's not a sales commission bonus as there was before. So do you feel like your technology is replacing people? Are you hoping that people say, hey, look, if I want to get some people, more members results, like I got to staff up and I got to use your technology more as a weapon than like a self-serve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it will depend a little bit on the format of the business, but I don't think those staff levels are coming back, where they're going to be staffing up big consultation groups.
Okay.
Yeah. So our idea with the technology is to elevate the expertise of the people that they can hire, which may be fewer in number and maybe less in experience, and really create expert positioning no matter what the level of staff is. And then for facilities where really there's no choice but to have self-serve, to let them signal to their members that they actually still really care about their fitness journey and they care about them as individuals with a personalized experience. The problem now is if you go into a studio and no one engages with you individually and you only engage with the instructor, you might get the sense that this facility has a great product, but I might want to try something else where they might take some interest in me. And that's what we really want to avoid. And self-serve can still do that.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question on your business model, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle or wrestle with, was the term I was looking for. And I'll give you an example, and I want you to opine based on your business model. So there's a company that we've got a good relationship with, and they're saying, look, I want to be a marketing engine, but I do not want to actually create the content or make any decisions. So I'm going to give this client this marketing engine, and I want them to use it however they want. I don't want to meddle in their marketing. And my response to the CEO is that you're basically putting an engine, you have to actually drive the car and make them let you drive the car with their members, because they're not going to do it the way you can do it. And you're basically sub-optimizing the opportunity from a revenue and from a relationship standpoint and from dollars and cents. Like, they're not driving this. So they have your engine in there. You can say, oh, I got this account, but who cares? Like, they're not
That's
using it, right? So when you kind of take a look at your business, you say, look, staffing levels are low. I got a software that I know is bulletproof. I know it's scalable. I know it works. Maybe I need to staff up myself and I'll manage it for you. Just give me access to do it. And at the same time, you're like, well, now I got to change my revenue model. Now I got a lot higher labor costs. Maybe I'm not a SaaS company. Maybe I'm like a value-added SaaS company. So you know what multiples trade at. You know, like, where your business is going at the same time. And I'm going to get off my soapbox. At the same time, you're like, that's not my business model, but maybe it has to be my business model.
Right. I don't know to what extent we will ultimately need to go in that consultative approach, but I do think hands-off doesn't work.
Right.
And our objective is for people to get, or clubs or studios to get, a 10x return on their investment with us. And we can give them best practices, we can give them templates, we can give them playbooks, all of those things. We can't necessarily make them implement those. So we're very open to taking more active roles with subscribers if they want us to, even if it's just for a short time to get the momentum going. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question perfectly, but we would be willing to have tiers of service for sure,
right,
where we do much more than just offer a subscription.
And I say that and I ask you that question to expose to some of the vendors or to people that are deploying other types of software, to say, if you're not using it as a weapon and actually using it the way it's supposed to be used, then take it out or ask the vendor or the partner to staff it for you to optimize it. That's my point. I think some people say, I'm just a technology company. Well, that doesn't work anymore.
No.
Unless somebody's using it as mission critical software, you got to use it as mission critical software on their behalf.
And I think in our case, we're giving clubs or studios a whole new set of data that they haven't had before, at least in the aggregate. And so they may not be prepared yet to use that data. So it is really incumbent on us to help them to do that.
One other follow-up question. You said, I want my clients, or my partners, or my channel partners, however you want to use the word, I want them to get a 10x return on their investment. Why 10x? Why not 5x? Why not 3x?
That's a good point. 10x to me is the no-brainer territory. 3 to 5, maybe there's an argument about that and how consistent it is. I think the idea is overwhelming value. That's the principle that I follow, and I know that we probably leave money on the table that way as to price potentially, but it's a better way to build your reputation.
I had met with a company a couple of weeks ago, and they said, I want 5.5 times return on investment for everything I provide to them. And I feel like some of that might be a marketing tool. Some of it might be it's a no-brainer. Like, how can you not sign up? Like, I'm giving myself a 90% probability that it's going to work if I do 1 out of 10, right? Even though I'm 10x it, like you could fall short
exactly
by 90% and still break even on my platform, right?
Right, and that's about ambition.
Am I doing the math? I'm doing the math, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the key accounts, whether it's named or unnamed? What is 2023? What does success look like for you?
Well, we mentioned the Connected Health and Fitness Summit earlier. That was really our launch just a month and a half ago. So that was a great opportunity to speak with a very sophisticated audience and start to have conversations with larger chains. And the segments that seem to have the most promise for us are boutique studios, HVLP, and YMCAs. So that's really where we see our business growing the most. Happy to be surprised with other segments too, though, of course.
So, in closing here, as you built out your internal team, or as you think about your next hire at the executive level, you've been around the block a lot of times. You probably have said, my next hire should be this type of person, or there should be this title. What's at your current spot right now? And the reason why I'm asking is because I think there are times when small companies hire the wrong person at the wrong price point, and they basically have blown money on their back end instead of their front end, or like we're doing something that's cost related versus revenue related. So how do you think about that?
So we're at a juncture where, as we're rolling out into the market, revenue is the objective and building the business. So that means business development related staff for sure. Not necessarily a senior most executive, but someone who can build partnerships and has some experience in the market, in whatever respective segment, to help us build relationships and hopefully long-term relationships.
Yeah. And then from a standpoint of companies that could be collaborators, could be competitors, how do you kind of think about the landscape as you've kind of dug even deeper and further into this industry to say, look, there's a lot of different technologies. Like, we're not really infringing on your area. You shouldn't be worried about me. Like, let's collaborate and like, you should be able at some point to turn me on and off inside of a ABC or a Wellness Living or a Daxco and add this on. And then now basically I'm like in the back, I'm like in your app store.
You mentioned 3 obvious candidates, right? We're not competing with them in any way. They could leverage the data in their platforms to create some more personalization, and those are exactly the types of partners that we would want to work with over time.
Yeah, great. So, any quotes that you find that resonate with you, or people say, hey, Paul says this all the time. And then in addition to that, is there anything that's pleasantly surprised you about the industry?
Sure. Quotes. Well, I've got a sports quote if you want.
I love sports quotes. Fire away.
It's actually on my rubber, my silicone ring here, LIOTM, leave it on the mat. So that's a little bit of a life philosophy for me, and it's from my wrestling days back in college. And for me, it signifies being prepared, well-trained, giving your best effort so that when you step off the mat, there's no regrets. So that's my sports saying. And in terms of pleasant surprises, I don't know if this is only a post-COVID thing, but it's a friendly industry. I've really enjoyed meeting people. The shared passion for fitness is something that creates a bond that's natural. Yeah. And so it's certainly a lot of fun.
Awesome. Oh, well, thanks for coming on. We look forward to helping you build the business and make connections on the biz dev side. And I think anything that's going to help solve loneliness, diabetes, and obesity is where the future is, and people are going to pay up for it, whether it's 10x or 5x. Like, just get in your bodQR and start to actually help people get the results that they deserve, because they're coming to you because you're the authority. And if you're the authority, you better be the authority on fitness, better be the authority on nutrition, and you better be an authority on workout recovery. So thanks for coming on. I'm glad we met. And to ending member blindness.
Thank you, Pete.
1, 2, 3, Halo.
1, 2, 3, Halo. All right.
All right, man. Good stuff. Thanks.